Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It's the 2-hour late show because I had computer issues and also my alarm didn't go off. Woo! A great start to the week and a typical Monday, really, let's be honest. Sometimes your body just doesn't want to wake up. We're covering a lot of stories today, including some big news. So keep posted. It's time for our headlines. Today on Before Coffee, Libyan officials detained during investigation into the Derna disaster.
And we look into how Rupert Murdoch ruined politics forever.
A far-right rabble won't overthrow Ireland's democracy, but we shouldn't be complacent. An opinion piece by Fintan O'Toole.
And why are so many Venezuelans coming to the United States?
Hollywood writers strike. WGA reaches a tentative deal to end the 146-day strike.
And those stories and more today on September 25th, which is One Hit Wonder Day. So come on, Eileen, let's do the safety dance on September 25th, 2023 edition of Before Coffee. Yeah, I should lean to my right.
Oh, I don't. Which way? Wait, which way's your right? Yeah, lean that way.
Left.
Oh, no, left. Yeah, lean that way. Because every time you lean towards the camera, you're leaning off screen, which is really funny. But, anyways, enough about her. Oh wait, why isn't this working? There we go. Right. Okay. Audio. I got distracted giving directions.
The Russians
okay.
That you just.
We're Russian.
Oh,
right. Oh, camera fell down. It's okay. I'm the one on screen now, and we're talking about Libya and how, obviously there was an infrastructure problem in Libya, hence why there was a giant flood. But let's see if this article is going to cover the macro reason, not the micro reason, just the micro reason of why it happened, but the macro reason. Libya's top prosecutor says he has ordered the detention of 8 officials over the investigation into the collapse of the 2 dams. This is from NOS News. More than a week ago, the authorities announced that they were investigating the devastating dam breaches in the city of Derna. The public prosecutor now wants 8 current and former officials to be detained while the investigation into the disaster continues. 7 of them were questioned yesterday, it said in a statement. AP writes that those interrogations focus on allegations of mismanagement, negligence, and other errors that contribute to the disaster. These are former employees of the authorities involved in water supplies and dam management. 8. The former mayor of Derna was also questioned. He was fired after the disaster. Last week there was a large demonstration by the residents in Derna, angry protesters that set his house on fire. They believe that the local government has failed to protect the city from the water. He must have done a really bad job after this disaster, I think. Give us some food! Oh, I don't know. My food storehouse is pretty full. I don't want to share any of it, and they burned his house down. I don't know. Because you can't just burn your house down because of a natural disaster. You can't predict that. Yeah. You should have predicted the weather! I mean, some people can't be that zealous.
No, they were just telling him to do his damn job.
Experts say the collapse is partly due to Libya's poorly maintained infrastructure. The money intended for maintenance of the buildings may have been used for other purposes. The dams were built in the 1970s. A report in 2021 noted that they had not been maintained despite more than $2 million being embarked for them in 2012 and 2013. An armed conflict has been raging in Libya for more than 10 years, dividing the country into 2, a western part and an eastern part, both with their own governments. The government in the west is recognized by the United Nations. The affected city of Derna is located in the eastern part of the city. As a result of a storm, a huge amount of precipitation fell in a short period of time in eastern Libya about 2 weeks ago. As a result, 2 dams broke near the port city of Derna, resulting in floods and mudslides. Thousands of people died, and thousands are still missing, and the damage is enormous. Local and international rescue teams are still searching for bodies in the mud and between collapsed buildings. The search is also underway in the Mediterranean Sea for bodies of victims who were swept away by the water. Correspondent Daisy Moore joined a team that searched for the bodies in the sea and the beach. They also collected DNA material to help identify the deceased. A According to the volunteers, there are still many children in the sea and under the rubble. And just people, too. Just children, yeah, that's sad, but also other people as well. So let's not talk about how a lot of people died, not just children. I hate when they do that. I hate when news stories are like, also children, though. Think of the children. So.
Yeah, that's true. But children are kind of helpless.
Yeah, we're always thinking of the children. Don't worry, you don't need to tell us. According to the UN aid agency OCHA, the flood damaged a third of buildings and infrastructure in Derna. Authorities have evacuated the hardest hit area of the city, according to OCHA. Only search and ambulance teams remain. The aid organized previously estimated that around 884,000 Libyans were affected by the disaster, almost 1 million people. According to the Red Cross, one of the biggest challenges in the area is now supplying clean drinking water. The floods have destroyed water systems and sewers. Among other things, there are fears of an outbreak of cholera. So there's your sad, but I guess somebody's getting their justice because somebody's being arrested and tried for the dam collapse. So that's your update on the Libyan flood disaster. Your story.
My story, and today we have a long commentary by Mehdi Hassan of MSNBC, one of my favorite reporters on TV, who actually interviews people and doesn't let them squirm out of their bullshit questions. So, Mehdi Hassan, his story about Rupert Murdoch, that big bag of pus that finally retired from Fox News and News Corps, as they call it. News Corps is what it should be called. Anyway. The year 2023 remembered as the media year that Logan Roy died. If you don't know Logan Roy died, you had to look him up. If you don't know who Logan Roy is, you have to look him up like I did. He's the guy in Secession. Okay, he's that old, all right, media mogul who's basically Rupert Murdoch, I guess, in real life. I've never seen the show, so I'm one of those people that doesn't watch a show.
Everyone's talking about it and you don't want to watch it, yeah.
Everybody's talking about it like, so? I got to drop everything I'm doing, no matter what I was doing, and just go watch this show now? No, fuck you. I'll watch it in my own time. I don't care. I'll wait till everybody in the cast is dead and then watch it. That's what I am. In the year 2023, okay, so yes, the real-life right-wing media mogul announced Thursday morning his decision to retire from Fox News and News Corp board, leaving his even more right-wing son, Lachlan, as the sole guy in charge of Murdoch family's global media empire. But while Roy's fictional death in Secession merely deprived all of us of one of the best characters in television history, which I have no idea. He could be, couldn't be, never, I have no opinion. The 92-year-old Murdoch's retirement leaves behind a very real wake of destruction. It's difficult to sum up Murdoch's unremittingly, toxically, and pernicious record, to encapsulate the sheer power of Murdoch to do damage to our politics, our media, our world. Three of the most destructive events of my lifetime, the Iraq War, the Brexit vote, and the rise of Trump and his big lie simply could not have happened without Rupert Murdoch. Let's start with the Iraq War. In the months before the war, Murdoch's vast media organization agitated for invasion. The Guardian examined 175 Murdoch-owned papers in the run-up to war, and completely coincidentally, all of them supported the invasion. All of them. It was basically a 50-50 thing in the United States, but not on Fox News or any of his organizations. Here in the States, Fox beat the drum so loudly for weapons of mass destruction in Iraq that even in 2015, 12 years after the invasion, the survey found that more than half of Fox viewers thought WMDs were discovered in Iraq. They weren't. Stop watching Fox News. They're lying to you. They're lying to make you feel good about your own prejudices.
They also discovered dragons in Iraq and like dragon eggs, and there's actually an entire dragon army now in Iraq, according to Fox News. You know, that's how truthful they are.
Of the fire-breathing variety, of course. Yeah. But, because what good's a dragon if it don't breathe fire? Basically, it's just a lizard. If it wasn't just Murdoch's media empire, it was his own personal touch with world leaders. In the final days before the invasion, British Prime Minister Tony Blair, otherwise known as George W. Bush's lapdog, I'm sorry, I added that, still had not publicly committed to taking part in the invasion, at least not on the timeline the U.S. wanted. On the night of March 11, 2003, according to the diary of top aide Alistair Campbell, Blair took a call from Murdoch, who was pressing on timing, saying how News International would support us. Both TB and I felt it was prompted by Washington, and another example of overcrewed diplomacy. News Corps later called it rubbish to suggest what Murdoch was lobbying for war on behalf of the U.S. Republicans. Whatever his motivation, it's clear that Murdoch helped make the war happen. As even the right-wing former editor to the Daily Mail, Paul Decret, once said, I'm not sure that the Blair government or Tony Blair would have been able to take the British people to war if it hadn't been for the implacable support provided by Murdoch papers. There's no doubt that came from Murdoch himself. And there's Brexit. Since the pivotal vote in 2016, the UK has seen no less than 4 prime ministers resign, utter havoc unleashed on the British economy, all of it undermining the European Union at the same time when domestic far-right populists are on the rise and Putin's expansionist Russia is on the doorstep. And yet Brexit almost didn't happen. The pro-Brexit side won the 2016 referendum by less than 4 percentage points, with 51.9% of the citizens voting to leave and 48.1% voting to remain. Well, it is less than 4 percentage points. It's less than 2 percentage points. Because if you lose 2, then you gain 2. So it's actually 2. People need to understand how this actually works. The victory was not by 4 percentage points. It was by 2 percentage points. Right? I mean, if half of those people change their mind, it's a tie. Not if all of those people change their mind. If all those people change their mind, it goes the other way. So it's only a 2. Anyway. So how is it that British public could make such a self-sabotaging decision by such narrow margins? You have to start with the hard right tabloid newspaper, The Sun, the most widely read newspaper in the UK. Oh boy. Way to go, England. Way to read stupid illiterate crap written by liars. The Sun did far more than throw out some cheeky pro-Brexit headlines. Its parent company, News Group Newspapers, actually registered itself with the UK's Electoral Commission as an official lead EU campaign group after spending more than €96,000 on the Sun's Believe in Britain posters. Believe, spelled B-E-L-E-A-V-E. That's right, Murdoch's news organization doubled down as a pro-Brexit lobbying group, as one does when they are pursuing the most basic standards of journalistic integrity. That was done with pure sarcasm, by the way. Mm-hmm. Now you could say that The Sun is just a newspaper. How much impact could it really have on public opinion? Well, it took the city of Liverpool, where many residents have boycotted The Sun since 1989 because of the paper wrongly blamed local fans for an incident at a football match. The researchers found that residents were 10% less Eurosceptic than the rest of the UK. It also found that Liverpool residents' views of EU improved significantly as a result of the boycott. Of course, correlation does not mean causation. The Sun was not the only tabloid to be overwhelmingly pro-Brexit at the time, but it's impossible to deny that The Sun had a clear impact on our British opinion that was a razor-thin margin with devastating consequences for the United Kingdom and the rest of the world. And then there's Donald Trump and the big lie. Worst of all, maybe Murdoch's central role in the rise of Donald J. Trump and the big lie. The fact is, Fox laid the groundwork for Trump's presidential victory in 2016. Fox built a conservative audience enraged and agitated by birther conspiracies and anti-immigrant sentiment. Fox primed millions of viewers to care about the ridiculous non-issues that Donald Trump would successfully exploit during his campaign. Not to mention that starting in 2011, Fox really gave then private citizen and businessman Donald Trump pure airtime every week with a recurring segment, Mondays with Trump. Oh my God, what a bunch of idiots. If you believe Donald Trump was anything but a con man in your entire life, I feel sorry for you. I've known he's been a con man since I ever heard of the guy. If you believe something he's saying, you're a moron. Fox contributed to the myth of Trump long before he became candidate, and after he took the Republican nomination, Fox essentially became his propaganda arm, and once he took the White House, it morphed into state TV. Then came 2020, when Trump lost his re-election bid and declared victory anyway. Fox and Murdoch had a moment of opportunity to break with Trump. They had a chance to say, you lost, we're done with you, let's move on, but they didn't. Even while bashing Trump in private, Fox hosts and guests still pushed the big lie in their TV shows, which is why eventually Fox had to settle the lawsuit for Dominion voting systems for $785.5 million. I know that's a lot of money, folks, for lying. They are liars. Okay, not just Fox News hosts have revealed the Dominion filings. Rupert Murdoch himself in private was calling out Trump's lies, going so far as to call Trump's election narrative a myth. So if Murdoch thought his hosts were going too far with their support for the big lie, why did Murdoch's network continue to push the pro-Trump content to its audience? Not because he respected Trump or believed in the big lie, he didn't, but because he believes in ratings. In his Dominion deposition, Murdoch told nobody wants Trump as an enemy, because Murdoch said if Trump says don't watch Fox News, maybe some don't. In other words, we don't report the news, we report the stuff that makes you feel justified in your feelings of, somebody's out to get my poor white skin. Iraq, Brexit, Trump, and the big lie, all pushed by Murdoch in the service of not principle or even ideology, but for the sake of power and money. In fact, at one point during the Dominion lawsuit, when asked why he was platforming conspiracy theorists, Rupert Murdoch agreed with the Dominion lawyers that his approach was not red or blue, it is green. There's your story. Next story is about, it's Tommy Chong guy. I can't hear you. I don't know if your mic's off or you muted me, but I can't hear you.
I muted myself. It's fine. I agree with everything you said. It was a long one, but it was a truthful one. Let's go ahead and go to the next story.
It had to be said. Good.
Speaking of far-right people basically causing global shutdown, Fintan O'Toole from Ireland doesn't want the far right to overthrow Ireland's democracy. The assortment of conspiracists who blockade Parliament was laughably incoherent, yet change is coming that could awaken dark forces. The biggest challenge posed by the far right in Ireland is convincing yourself to take it seriously. It must be done, but it's not easy. There is even strange comfort that one of the 2 Irish novels shortlisted for this year's Booker Prize, Paul Lynch's gripping prophet song, imagines an Ireland of the near future in which a far-right party has taken power. Comforting because the book demands quite an effort of imagination. Lynch makes this possibility chillingly real, but it is a reality that as of now only a very good novelist could create. Last week, 200-odd some very odd demonstrators in effect blockaded the Seal of Parliament in Dublin for most of an afternoon, preventing members from entering or leaving. They erected a mock gallows bed-decked with pictures of leading members of all the main Irish political parties. The effigy hung from it had a picture of both the Commissioner of the Police and the Minister for Children, Equality and Integration, who is particularly hated by the far right because he is both green and gay. They shouted racist abuse at the people of color passing by, threw plastic bags filled with urine at 2 women, and a young American on her first day as Parliament intern had her phone stolen. The incident was undoubtedly nasty, all the more disturbing because Ireland has managed to endure as one of the few developed countries in which the far right has no real foothold. It is one of the handful of nations whose political center of gravity has shifted to the left in the last decade. It has done so even as it has been transformed from a country with almost no immigration to one in which 20% of the population is made up of people who are born somewhere else. Yet, it is hard to see the mob outside Parliament as representing any real threat to Irish democracy. It was small in numbers. The stated object of its rage were almost random: immigration, transgendered rights, planned hate speech legislation, COVID vaccines, the globalists, sex education in schools, Irish government support in Ukraine, and even bizarrely, proposals for a constitutional right to housing. Don't give people houses! I had to work hard to get my house! Stop giving people houses! We don't want people moving into our neighborhood! Some of the most prominent figures in the crowd have been traveling around to public libraries in different parts of the country and harassing our librarians to demand the removal of children's books, especially those that fail to demonize homosexuality. The scattergun approach reflects an inability to cohere into a single movement. There are too many candidates for the dream job of Ireland's post-democratic deuce. There is a plethora of micro-parties, among them the Irish Freedom Party, Ireland's First, Anti-Corruption Ireland, and the National Party. Last of these has recently added to the gaiety of the nations by engaging in internecine warfare over the ownership of its stash of gold bars. The comedy gold added to the general feeling that, however unpleasant these people may be, they have little chance of becoming a serious political force. And yet, there are some grounds for caution. One is, paradoxically enough, the strong possibility of radical change in Irish politics with the emergence of the radical nationalist Sinn Féin, formerly the political wing of the IRA, as a serious contender to lead the next government. Polling suggests... What are you doing?
Me?
Yeah, it sounds like you're typing.
I'm not doing anything.
Oh, weird. Okay.
I'm just hearing some noise.
Yeah, I'm just hearing some noise. Polling suggests that in the general election be held next year or early in 2025, Sinn Féin will emerge as the largest single party in Dáil and may be able to take over the head of coalition or government. What could follow is predictable enough. A strong wave of disillusionment. At the moment, Sinn Féin, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. It's like Sinn Féin, but it's Irish.
Sinn Féin.
Yeah, Sinn Féin.
It was a political wing of the IRA.
Yeah, I just said that in the article. Yeah.
Right. Very pro-Catholic, though. They had a lot of support from the
Sinn
Catholic
Féin is
Church,
the biggest single barrier to the emergence of a far-right movement of any substance. Its roots are in the kind of ethno-nationalism that the far-right seeks to harness. But Sinn Féin thinks of itself as a left-wing, anti-imperialist party. To its credit, it has never sought to exploit anti-immigrant sentiment, yet has soaked up many of the energies. Well, you can't be pro-imperial, and then not want immigrants. Hello? The whole point of being an imperial.
Yeah.
So, it's so
Ireland's
funny.
At the juncture of England and immigration, too.
Yeah.
Because people are probably not wanting to go to England, I would think.
To its credit, it's never sought to exploit any anti-immigrant sentiment, yet has soaked up many of the energies that would otherwise flow into the far right with its promise of a united Ireland and a quick end to deep crisis in the provision of housing and healthcare. Those promises would be very hard to deliver on in short term. Sinn Féin would probably be more pragmatic and cautious in government than it looks in opposition, and that would create an opening for the party of the radical right. If such a party could cohere around a single strategy and the kind of half-credible, charismatic leader that all the quasi-fascist movements require. That's true. That's what I was thinking. All you need is one dude who's like, everyone loves that guy, and then he can say, go kill my enemies, and then all the radical, crazy people will just go, well, he's so charismatic, I have to do what he says. They are also deep underground in the groundwater of Irish politics, two elements that could get resurfaced. One is conservative Catholicism. Ireland rightly got much attention around Europe for the two referendums that transformed its image from reactionary to progressive: the legalization of same-sex marriage in 2015 and removal of constitutional ban on abortion in 2018. These were indeed electrifying moments, so much so that it's easy to forget that in each case about a third of the voters supported the conservative status quo. Those voters now have almost no political representation. Almost all the existing parties are socially liberal. So far, the right has failed to mobilize traditional Catholics, but they have not gone away. In France, Spain, and Italy, they have provided a support base for far-right parties. It is not far-fetched to think that this could happen in Ireland. The other dormant elements in old anti-democratic strain in Irish nationalism. Its most militant factions always maintained that they had no need for democratic mandate, which Sinn Féin emphatically lacked for IRA's armed campaign, because they themselves embody the will of the people, as decided more than a century ago during Ireland's revolutionary period. A similar claim, as the Populist Project's later report has shown, is now that the common currency of the European radical right, the volonté générale, has its own specifically Irish accent. It is a current that a smart far-right leader, if one were to emerge, could plug into. All of which means that the far right in Ireland has to be viewed simultaneously through two lenses. One shows a risible rabble, the other shows a petri dish in which, under the right conditions, something very dangerous could grow. This was an opinion piece from Fintan O'Toole, who is a columnist with the Irish Times and author of We Don't Know Ourselves, A Personal History of Modern Ireland. So, there you go. Ireland, gotta watch out, doesn't want to become like Italy, who currently has a a full far-right party who's just like, immigrants are gross! They smell, get rid of them! Like...
Led by Mussolini's granddaughter.
Yeah, exactly. On to your next story.
Well, a bad idea should never be repeated. And more immigration news and how United States all get these ideas that everything is from Mexico. Alright, so again, we get this Fox News narrative on immigration, ignoring the fact that all these white people got here through immigration. What's the number one cause of immigration in the world, ever? It is the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
Right? All of them big ships full of people couldn't have made it across the Atlantic with all those Europeans in the 1800s without Industrial Revolution. And now the Industrial Revolution is causing the global impact of the greenhouse effect, and it's causing those type of immigrants, people who have nothing in their country but poverty. But Venezuela is getting it both ways because they have oil, and we have boycotted their oil. So here's a story from New York Times. Why are so many Venezuelans going to the United States? This is by Julie Turkowitz and Izan Herrera. Hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans have arrived at the United States border in the last 2 years, part of an historic wave headed towards of migrants heading north amid growing global crises. But Venezuela has been in the midst of an economic and humanitarian crisis for roughly a decade. Why are so many people going to the United States? Over the past year, we've interviewed hundreds of Venezuelans headed to the United States. The short answer is that people are exhausted by so many years of economic struggle. Global policies meant to change the situation have failed to keep them at home. At the same time, social media has popularized the right to the United States, while a thriving people-moving business near the start of the journey has accelerated the pace of migration, even as the number of United Nations tally shows a record number of people dying on their way north. Venezuela was once among the wealthiest countries in Latin America. Its economy buoyed by profits from vast oil reserves, the largest proven reserves in the world, that supported celebrated universities, respecting public health system, and a flourishing middle class. But the economy crashed in the mid-2010s amid mismanagement of the oil sector by authoritarian government, claiming socialist ideals now led by President Nicolas Maduro. Those sanctions imposed by the United States in 2019 have exacerbated the situation. For years, Venezuelans have been scraping by, trying to feed their children on meager salaries, watching family members die of preventable diseases, waiting for hours in line for gasoline so they can make a trip to the hospital or the market. An influx of dollars in recent years had landed mostly in the pockets of wealthy and well-connected. The average salary for a public high school teacher or nurse is roughly $3 a month. The average salary for a private sector employee is $160 a month, and the monthly cost simply feed a family of four is $372 a month, according to the Venezuelan Finance Observatory, a nonprofit organization. Many parents now raising children have only known crisis, making Herculean efforts to simply put food on the table. In our conversations, many Venezuelans said they were willing to take enormous risks just to find semblance of sanctuary for their families. Every day I get older, I still have not secured anything for them, said Williams Eñez, 42, speaking of his 5 children. Mr. Eñez, a former supporter of Mr. Maduro's party, spoke from a northern Colombia town that he's become a gathering point for Venezuelans headed to the United States. Why are Venezuelans going to the United States? Why not elsewhere? That's because we're a successful country. Probably, some of these other countries just holding on, like Colombia. Colombia wouldn't even be a country without our support in most cases, like propping up their government. They would just fall into chaos, just like these other places. In early days of crisis, millions of Venezuelans migrated to other countries in South America, migrated, not mitigated. Well, they mitigated too. They migrated to other countries in South America. Colombia, for one, Venezuela's neighbor, received the largest part of the exodus, more than 2 million people. Colombia, with the support of the United States, offered a generous visa program meant to keep the Venezuelans in South America. The wages in Colombia are very low. Mr. Eñez, for example, migrated where he made just $5 a day cutting sugarcane. Well, it's better than $3 a month to be a school teacher. I gotta say, Peru, $3 a month, what does it even pay? That's like money you throw away in the United States. Peru and Ecuador were other popular countries in Venezuela seeking new homes, but both suffer similar wage issues. Ecuador is now struggling with rising drug trafficking violence, and common criminals extort small business owners. Unable to find safer, stable lives in South America, many Venezuelans are moving to the United States. Is life improving in Venezuela? Not really. In the early days of the economic crisis, Widespread scarcity made everyday goods difficult to find for nearly all Venezuelans. Today, food and medicine are more available. They're just too expensive for most citizens to afford. Life in Venezuela has gotten better for an extremely select number of people. For everyone else, public schools have been gutted as an investment has dried up, while teachers strike over low wages has put educators in the streets and students out of the classroom. The healthcare situation is dire. Public hospitals lack basic supplies are overwhelmed. To enter a private clinic, patients are sometimes asked to pay as much as $1,000 in advance and then a similar price for every day of care. Yeah, nobody can afford that, even in the United States. Former middle-class families now resort to websites like GoFundMe, forced to beg for money to treat life-threatening cancers and other conditions. At the same time, the electricity gasoline shortage that characterized the early days of the crisis continued because of the country's deteriorating infrastructure. Caracas, the capital, has suffered almost daily electricity cuts in last year, while lines for subsidized gasoline last up to 6 hours. The situation beyond the capital is worse. Free gas, but you gotta wait in line for it. Alicia Anderson, 44, a nurse at the Caracas suburbs, said that she makes about $5 a month at a public hospital, along with 2 monthly bonuses, 40 for food and 30 explained by Maduro's effort to combat the country's economic war. She makes ends meet by caring for patients in their homes, selling food out of her house, and participating in the community loan system. Running water arrives about once a week, Miss Anderson said, and on those days, the family fills every bucket they have to save for the future. What is the journey like to the United States? Visa requirements mean that many Venezuelans simply cannot fly. Instead, they're taking grueling land route from Caracas to other points of origin, moving on foot, via bus, train, and car all the way to the southern U.S. border. One of the most dangerous legs is a jungle called the Darien Gap, which connects South and North America. In the past, the jungle acted as a natural barrier, making northward migration difficult. But in 2021, Haitians fleeing chaos and home began to cross the forest in a large number. Last year, they were surpassed by Venezuelans. Today, Venezuelans are the largest group crossing the Darien, according to the authorities in Panama, followed by Ecuadorians and people from many other countries, including China, India, and Afghanistan. How does Venezuela government treat its people at home? For nearly a decade, human rights activists have documented detailed allegations of torture, forced disappearance, arbitrary detentions, and sexual violence orchestrated by the state authorities. Since 2014, the year after Maduro took power, more than 15,700 people have been detained for political reasons, according to the Foro Penal, a nonprofit organization based in Caracas. At least 283 political prisoners are still in custody, the organization estimated in a March report. For years, those held in custody say they have been treated cruel and degrading ways and had limited access to legal defense. What role does U.S. play? Well, the United States intensified economic sanctions on Venezuela in 2019, including ban on oil imports after having accused Mr. Maduro of fraud in the most presidential election. What a coincidence. Trump administration doesn't believe in democratic elections, so they imposed economic sanctions. Economic experts agree sanctions hobble the country's oil interests, but they are split on how much the economic collapse is caused by the corruption and mismanagement of the Venezuelan government. This goes on for a while, but you've heard enough. Venezuela is sending people here because they have no economy left. So they're not sending them here. They just got nowhere else to go.
Yeah, they're just, let's just keep going until we find the best country to live in, really.
Right, because we keep thinking that these countries are going to straighten their act if we just impose sanctions on them. They'll straighten out, and it just basically causes more poverty.
Yep.
It causes the people to come here. They come here.
Yeah.
That's what happens. We cause it, and we act like we didn't cause it. We didn't cause 100% of it, but we sure aren't helping.
Yeah, exactly.
Help them settle in.
More U.S. news. Let's talk about how Hollywood's writer's strike is reaching its tentative deal after 146 days. This is from Lois Beckett in Los Angeles and other agencies. Hollywood writers are poised to end their nearly 5-month strike after reaching a tentative agreement with studios, the writers union, and the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers said Sunday night. Though the full details of the agreement still have to be formally approved. The deal came after 5 marathon days of renewed talks by the Negotiations for the Writers Guild of America, WGA, and an alliance of studios, streaming services, and production companies. It must be approved by the Guild's board and members before the strike officially ends. The terms of the deal were not immediately announced, but the WGA called the deal exceptional, with meaningful gains and protections for writers in every sector of the membership, in an email to members. For top industry executives, Iger, Warner Bros. Discovery, David Zaslav, Netflix, Ted Sarandos, and NBC Donna Langley joined negotiations this week, helping to break the months-long impasse. California Governor Gavin Newsom touted his support for the striking workers in a statement Sunday night, saying, "Writers went on strike over existential threats to their careers and livelihoods, expressing real concerns over the stress and anxiety workers are feeling. I am grateful that the two sides have come together." The agreement comes just 5 days before the strike would have broken the record of the union's 1988 strike to become the longest in Guild's history, and the longest Hollywood strike in decades. Union leaders are expected to vote in full terms on the new 3-year contract on Tuesday, according to the union's emails to members, which was posted on social media. Late-night television shows are expected to resume production shortly and could even return to the air within days, but Hollywood actors who joined the industry's historic double strike in July remain on strike, meaning that many new film and television projects are expected to stay on hold, and crew members affected by the work stoppage will remain unemployed. "We remain on strike in our TV theatrical contract and continue to urge the studio and streamer CEOs and AMPTP to return to the table and make the fair deal that our members deserve and demand," the Screen Actors Guild said in a statement congratulating the Writers Union on its tentative agreement. The ongoing work stoppages have taken a toll on camera operators, carpenters, production assistants, and other crew members, as well as the caterers, florists, and costume suppliers and other small businesses that support the film and television production. But unions for other workers affected by the double strike, including the Teamsters and the Union for Stagehands and Technical Workers, stood in solidarity with the writers and actors unions throughout the strike. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass hailed the tentative agreement as a fair deal and said she hoped the same will happen soon for SAG-AFTRA, citing the need to get the city's entertainment industry, a central part of LA's economy, back on its feet. The 146-day strike was driven by Hollywood workers' frustrations with their share of the profits in an online streaming era, and spotlighted artists' concerns about the threats artificial intelligence might pose to their industry. While Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, called the writers' and actors' demands just not realistic, I mean, it's all not realistic because it's all digital. In July, the strike ultimately highlighted the solidarity among unions within Hollywood and the broad public support for workers' demands as the Tinseltown labor disputes kicked off a hot labor summer of strikes across multiple industries. Iger subsequently struck a conciliatory note citing his deep respect for creative professionals after everyone told him off on social media, which I saw. A bunch of people saying, "Who the fuck are you to say that, you know? Just because you own Disney doesn't mean you own the entire industry." This fight was won by the Writers Guild moments ago, and the billionaires and CEOs have been denying the reality of the situation. Alex O'Keefe, a WGA member who has been outspoken about the industry's toll on early career writers, told The Guardian Sunday night, "We had to give the entire industry a reality check. This was never a fight about money, it was a fight about power. It was a fight about disrespect," O'Keefe added, saying he hoped the deal marked a new era in Hollywood. Striking actors and writers have marched together outside studios across Los Angeles, from Amazon to Warner Bros. To Disney. To improve morale, some of the picketers have come dressed in themes of costumes of the day, like a Bridgerton day outside Netflix's studios. Both actors and writers described a shared frustration with the industry that increasingly made it difficult for the average worker to earn a middle-class living, and that seemed poised to turn all but the most successful stars into gig workers. And both said they feared the studios would try to replace writers, background actors, designers, and other creatives with a smaller number of workers supplemented by artificial intelligence technologies. Variety reported that the language around those use of generative AI in content production was one of the final aspects of the new contract that writers and studios worked on before they reached their tentative deal. In July, Deadline, an industry publication, sparked outrage when it quoted an anonymous studio executive saying that the studio did not plan to negotiate with writers until the fall, saying, "The end game is to allow things to drag on until union members start losing their apartments and losing their houses." The economic pain of the writers' 146-day strike was met with shows of solidarity for some of the industry's most powerful celebrities. A-list Hollywood actors made their support for the strikes even clearer, clear even before the actors union had authorized a strike. Some wealthy directors and producers announced a six-figure donation to the strike's fund to support former cast and crew members, while other stars auctioned off Zoom meetings and one-on-one experiences to raise money for a crew healthcare fund. The few celebrities who attempted to flout strike rules, including Drew Barrymore, who announced she would resume her popular talk show while her writers were still on strike, faced broad public condemnation and quickly reversed course. In May, Warner Bros. CEO David Zaslav was booed and jeered at by students in Boston University as he delivered a commencement address in the early weeks of the writer's strike. "Pay your writers!" the students reportedly chanted at him. In an email shared on social media on Sunday, the Writers Guild told its 11,500 members that the strike was not officially over and no one was to return to work. While WGA picketing had been suspended, the Guild said it encouraged writers to continue to march with SAG-AFTRA on its picket lines, which will resume on Tuesday. "It's going to be wild on the picket line," O'Keefe, the WGA member, said. This coming week, he said he planned to join the actors' picket line and also to show up to the picket line with the United Auto Workers, who are also on strike. "Hollywood writers are not going anywhere," O'Keefe said. "We are part of the labor movement." This was written in association with Associated Press and Reuters as well. So there you go. The strike may be coming to an end. We may have protections against, AI writing all our scripts, and then we have to sit there going, "Man, why is this new episode so bad? Oh, it's written by a robot. That's why." So,
Yeah.
no more robots. Oh, well, we'll see what the actual deals say, but hopefully it says something about no more robots. On to this day in history.
How will we notice, though? There's bad writing, so.
Yeah.
And of course, reality shows took over a long time ago on television, so. An actual reality check. Actually, if you're in a reality show and you get a check, you're getting a reality check. Anyway. On to this day in history, then I made a bad joke. In 1066, Tostig, Earl of Northumbria, and Harold III, King of Norway, were killed in an attempt to depose Tostig's brother, King Harold II of England. Northumbria is North England, South Scotland, basically. So they had their own king at that time. Well, anyway, he died trying to depose his brother. But you think your family don't get along. 1711, Emperor Qianlong, whose six-decade reign, 1735 to 96, during the Qing dynasty, was one of the longest in Chinese history. Well, he was born on this day in 1711. In 1777, Philadelphia, then the American capital, was occupied by British forces during the American Revolution. 1799, André Massigna, French nobleman and general under Napoleon, defeated Russian forces in the Second Battle of Zurich. In 1929, American journalist Barbara Walters was born. In 1962, Sonny Liston became the World Heavyweight Boxing Champion with a first-round knockout of Floyd Patterson in Chicago. 1970, hostilities came to an end during the Black September, the brief but violent civil war between the Palestinian Liberation Organization and Jordan. In 2011, Kenyan political and environmental activist Wangari Maathai, who was the first black African woman to win the Nobel Prize in 2004, died at the age of 71. In 2016, American golfer Arnold Palmer, who's an unorthodox swing and aggressive approach to become one of the golf's more successful and well-liked stars, died at the age of 87. Also has a drink named after him. If you mix iced tea and lemonade, you have an Arnold Palmer. That's what it's called. If you put gin in it, you will be drunk. And 1513, Pacific Ocean sighted by Balboa. That's right, the Pacific Ocean was there the whole damn time, but Balboa noticed it on this day in 1513. On feature biography, September 25th, 1897 is the birthday of William Faulkner, who was born in New Albany, Mississippi, wrote a lot of Southern literature that made romanticized the South. And 1969, famous birthdays. We have Catherine Zeta-Jones, Welsh actress, was born in 1969. 1968, Will Smith was born, famous slapper. 1965, Scottie Pippen, another famous slapper. No, he's not a American basketball player, and the guy gets no credit because he played with Michael Jordan. In 1944, Michael Douglas, American actor and producer, was born. He has the same exact birthday as Catherine Zeta-Jones, and they are married. So that's pretty interesting. Well, not the same exact birthday. He is way older. Robin the Old Cradle, Michael Douglas, is 25 years older than his wife. Dmitri Shostakovich, Russian composer, was born in 1906. So break out your Shostakovich and play it all day. Shostakovich is usually overlooked in favor of Tchaikovsky, the Russian composer. What do you want to call it? Realm. And what day is it today? It is National Lobster Day. Always a good day to be a lobster. International Research Administrator Day. It's National One Hit Wonder Day, so go listen to your favorite one hit wonders. It's National Family Day, which is the fourth Monday in September. It's a National Quesadilla Day. So have a lobster quesadilla. And it's National Daughters Day. So hey,
that's me. I'm one of those.
And that's it for the days, September 25th.
Okay. Well, this has been Allison here on our late stage before coffee episode, and we will see you tomorrow on Tuesday so we can find out what good news is happening on Good News Tuesday.
And this is Roger, United States. Going to get some lobster, put it in my quesadilla, and feed it to one of my daughters. If I can find one. I have 4 of them. Anyway, today, September 25th, 2023 edition of Before Coffee.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.